This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Ladies and gentlemen, making their way to the microphones, it's Jack. It's Kenny. It's the Rock and Roll Up Podcast.
Hello, mates. Who's that next to me? It's my co-presenter. My name's Jack, so that must be Kenny.
Hello.
Hey, hello. Welcome to Rock and Roll Up with Jack and Kenny.
It's not offensive at all.
We've
started. We're offending the north of England.
You live in the north, sort of. I've gone regional.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, me old duck. Rock and Roll Up. Well, here we are. It's the lads back together in video form. How are you?
Well, I'm very, very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm feeling good.
Probably should have done that before we started.
No. Just displaying some of the power I've got in these there lungs. That was me at 30%. So, all right, be careful.
We all know what he can do when backed into a corner.
Yeah, I'm like a rabid dog. I will hump your leg.
What are we doing today, mate?
What we're doing is 2005 in the 21st Century Breakdown. What is the 21st Century Breakdown?
The 21st Century Breakdown is what it says on the tin.
Look at the tin.
We are.
Ooh, contains nuts? Yeah, it does. A couple of nuts right here.
Yeah. Gluten, you can't have it.
Oh. So am
Sorry.
Am I not allowed to
Get out of it.
Oh,
Get out.
okay. I'm going to end the meeting.
21st Century Breakdown. We are breaking down the top singles and albums from the 21st century. We started in 2000.
Joking. Yeah.
We're at 2005.
Wow, we've gone 2000. 1, 2. Count along with me at home. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're on 5.
Wait, are you counting all the way up to 2000 from 1?
Yes.
That's going to... Right.
I'm kind of doing it for the northerners out there. They might not understand the concept.
Yeah. You've been doing that home teaching again, haven't you?
I've been doing a lot of homework. Other people's homework, they're paying me to do their homework. I'm done.
People do that at universities, don't they? Pay for people to do essays for them.
Did you ever pay an essay to do your essay?
An essay?
Did you pay a Mexican to do your homework?
I did an essay. No, I was a good boy. I just did it shit myself.
You stayed up all night the night before?
Yeah.
With a couple of Red Bulls in hand.
But we're before that now.
Yeah.
We are, I think, at this time. So I'm in year 8, going into year 9.
Yes, in 2005, yeah.
Adolescence, we're talking.
You're in a dangerous territory.
Yeah. Had you lost your virginity yet at this point?
No, I think I was 13. Yeah. So, no. We didn't live the vicarious, crazy life of a rock star that Mr. K. Beveridge lived. At that age.
Right. Yeah. I very much wanted to be and thought I was a rock star at 14.
That hasn't really changed. You still live
really.
like a rock star.
Yeah.
And you're into 14-year-olds. That's not true. That's not true.
That's not true.
Just because everyone's getting banned at the moment, so please do not ban it. That's not true. We're just trying to enlighten people.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
2005, what are you doing? You're in school. How's school?
So I'm in year 8 to 9. I think we were chatting when we were doing the research for this episode. This is kind of when our musical awakening. I had been into music for a little bit already, and I had been playing guitar for about just under a year, maybe a year or so.
Nice.
And yeah, I was like I think we were both like sponges.
Yeah, very much the same, mate. It's
picking up everything.
I started playing slightly after you, but obviously people that have listened before will know our sort of musical heritage, and I'm sure we'll recap it somewhat throughout this series. But Kenny and I met a couple of years after this, or a year or so.
So yeah,
after.
we hadn't met yet, had we?
We hadn't met yet. I think it was within the first 2 years of me being back in the UK, because of course, previous to this, I had emigrated to New Zealand.
Amazing.
So I was accompanied throughout that trip by a lot of this music, a lot of these bands, a lot of tapes, a lot of CDs. I was delving in. And
Frodo? Was Frodo there?
he was there.
Bilbo?
Yeah, he was there.
Listening to a bit of Green Day?
He loves it. But we were there before they'd redone Hobbiton, so it was just a load of shells and sort of mud huts.
Right. Okay.
Because they came back to film The Hobbit there, and then they did it all up all glamorous, didn't they?
So how long are you in New Zealand for?
Well, I missed the first period. I missed the first term, I think, of year 8. So not that long, but enough to meet, to delay my meeting with my new friends, and to delay my foray into English education once more. We weren't there too long, but came back full of the people I'd been listening to, but ready to learn. Because I just dabbled in drums before I went. You see,
you went on excursion.
I went on excursion. Yeah, very much like a Japanese wrestler. I went to the Indies in New Zealand, listening to a lot of stuff, picking it up, but then I kind of got back to England and was like, right, let me be playing some drums, sir.
Yes, so we are at a pretty good age for loving music,
Absolutely.
Which we'll get into.
Loving you is easy, cause it's beautiful, mate.
Thank you.
That's for you.
Thank you.
And
loving you is quite hard, actually, because you're butt ugly. But I still love you. So, you know.
This is what he does to me, you see. When he's good, he's good. When he's bad, he's really bad. But I can't leave him.
Yeah. Again, just don't cancel us.
Please don't cancel us.
The news from, talking of, things that might get us cancelled. The news from 2005, one of the big stories, Prince Harry was seen wearing that Nazi uniform.
Yes, he was celebrating, of course, his family lineage. For those that don't know, they are a Germanic family with some relatively close ties to Nazi Germany. There we are. We're not suggesting anything. We're not suggesting.
But
yeah, he was at a gift party, wasn't it? And he's just been a lad, wasn't he? Been a couple of lads, you know.
Well, you know, I guess he's older than us. Was he in his early 20s or something?
Yeah, it was like the uni years, wasn't it? I'm sure it was.
I was often seen, you know. Were you where I dressed up as Stalin for a good 3 months.
Well, I went around Hobbiton as Mussolini. You know.
Yeah.
So, you know. You can't really frame those holiday photos, which is a shame. But
it's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A wizard is never late. He arrives precisely when he means to. I'm doing Ian McKellen as Gandalf.
Yeah. Do you like Jews, though?
Orange juice. Love orange juice. Get a lot of vitamin D at the moment, guys, because if you don't know, which we haven't mentioned yet, coronavirus is a thing. Let's date it right now. Coronavirus is still quite a bad thing at the moment.
Like this circle, it's going round.
See the world. Third of it indoors.
Yeah. Vitamin D apparently very useful in the combat against coronavirus, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Which,
Get it in, yeah.
Keep it up.
Keep it up, guys.
Jamie Oliver.
Go on. Is he here tonight?
He goes to war with school dinners in the UK, if anyone can remember.
Goes to war. Wow. Hero.
Yeah, it was an interesting series.
yeah. Ross Kemp missed out on that one. For some reason, Ross Kemp started cooking. I think they must have mixed up the thing. I don't know what happened. Yes, I did. I remember this. Well, yeah, because it was a couple of years before there were rumblings of healthy eating. I remember, actually, my last year of primary school, they started making these amazing baguettes fresh from the kitchen, which were great.
And you could eat wheat at that time.
At that time, I was eating wheat. In fact, I was eating wheat throughout the New Zealand experience, for it was this or the year after. I think possibly 2000.
What happened in New Zealand?
It was pretty bad.
You just bathing in wheat fields, and next thing you know,
Yeah. I went round one too many crop circles, and that was it. But yeah, at this point, I was still eating wheat, so I was listening to good music and eating wheat. It was a great time.
yeah,
All the relentless bullying. That was pretty tough. But
not so good.
But Jamie Oliver was there, screwing up our school food, wasn't he?
He was, yeah, making us eat salado.
If anyone doesn't know Jamie Oliver, he's a pretty well-renowned chef, isn't he? Cheeky chappy. He's in the same school as the body coach, your friend.
Oh.
Hey, whoop, couple of these, one of these.
Couple of them. Couple of these. My name's Joe Wicks.
There's no measurements. Just chuck it in the pot. Chuck it in the bowl.
How much of that shall I put in? Yeah, get that in there. That'll be all right. That'll be all right. That'll be all right. That'll be all right.
Yeah. So school dinners were irreversibly changed, I think, throughout most of England, at least for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gone back, I don't know. Do you remember that school canteen pizza? I don't know if your place did this, but it was baked beans. It was baked bean pizza. This is true.
Is this about New Zealand again?
Yeah, well, they do all look like they just eat beans. They're a very strange looking race, the Kiwis. Beautiful people, but they're not quite symmetrical. Just joking. Don't
Too many baked beans.
give me a hacker. Don't do that.
Don't give me a hacker.
Me in the street. But baked bean pizza. Remember that? I'm glad Jamie got rid of that.
I mean, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I grew up in Borstalls, that might explain.
That was quite nice.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of it now. Claggy. Bit claggy.
Bit claggy.
Bit clagma. Yeah. But yes, what else was happening? Labour won, didn't they?
They won their last election that they've won in this country, and probably the last they'll win for a long time, possibly ever.
You got old Mr. Stammer in play now.
Kia. That's a name. That's a name, isn't it?
After a car, I'm not sure.
KIA Stammer.
President Ford Focus.
There he is. There he goes.
Yeah, I'm not sure about him, but it was this very day, dated, what were we on, the 6th of May, where he had his first sort of debate with old Boris, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, PMQs. I haven't seen PMQs, but I've heard it was interesting. I'm into politics, so I shall check it out. But
PMQ, that thing women get when they get a bit, you know.
Yeah, well, they all act like some women on there.
Those menstrual questions. She won't stop asking me questions. When are you going to clean? When are you going to wash up?
That should be a sketch.
Yeah. That would be good with it. We're just joking, guys. We're both feminists.
Yeah. We're both feminists.
We're both feminists. Remember PMT, the shop in Bristol, the great music shop?
Yeah, we've got
we
one
would
here.
have frequented around 2005. Let's not get off track. What else was happening in 2005?
There was some bad stuff happened. Quite a lot of bad stuff happened this year. Our kind of, not our version, not the sequel to 9/11, because that would be,
you know what I mean? It's ours, which is nice.
That'd be 10/12, but this one, 7/7 happened in the UK. London attacks, terrorist attacks on London. Terrible thing happened. That happened this year, kind of put a shadow over the rest of the year. Happened in July, I think.
A lot of people scared to travel, of course, and on the tubes, and the train networks. Don't remember too much about it. I obviously remember it happening, but I actually remember 9/11 more vividly. I'm just thinking the amount of trigger words we've said in this: Nazi, feminism.
So many. Yeah.
Something tells me we're not going to get monetized for this. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. No one views us. Yeah, definitely. It was. I remember quite vividly. For some reason, I was on my way into geography.
I'm on my way
to geography class, and it just sort of in the corridor. I heard that London has been attacked by terrorists, and I was just on the way into geography. It was horrible.
Geography is a bad lesson.
Yeah. My My partner teaches geography. It was her lesson.
Is that where she met you? That explains a lot.
yeah.
Joking.
I'm just joking. That happened. Also, Hurricane Katrina was this year as well.
Oh.
So some pretty bad
That's one of
stuff.
the first instances I remember of them naming a hurricane. Apart from Shane Helms, WWF wrestler, the Hurricane.
Yeah. Did they just? It was such a big one that they we better.
Well, they measured it and they went, "Oh, he's that big. He deserves a name. We've got to make him think sentient. They've got to be scared.
They've got to be. Yeah. They need a name to be scared of. So Katrina and the waves.
There was a tidal wave.
It's not a tsunami. It was a hurricane. Eh?
We can laugh about it now.
Yeah, horrific moment in American history, and I think continues to be a problem in the area in New Orleans now. So
still suffering the effect.
Awful. So that's the shit news.
Well, that's over. Jesus.
Yeah.
Let's move into more general entertainment, shall we?
Yes.
He's like a cool general, isn't he? Oh yeah, it's in general entertainment. Do 10 push-ups. Watch No Country for Old Men.
Good film.
Really good film. Scary.
Get away from the dark stuff. Go to entertainment. Ronnie Barker, he's dead.
Oh, what a genius. You know what? There's celebrity deaths are one of those things where it's sort of every 10 make me really sad. A George Michael. Oh, that was horrible.
I was really sad.
Prince was it wasn't so.
I was very sad for Prince. Yeah.
Robin Williams for me was terribly sad.
Really sad.
But Ronnie Barker, really, really sad about that, and it's because it's people that bring you joy, people that bring you love and light and laughter. As corny as it is, they leave such an indelible mark on you, especially us being real British comedy fans, that when they're gone, although they've left an amazing body of work, it really is sad to see someone's sort of light extinguished that that is so funny.
Yeah, what a legend.
I was going through a few of their sketches, just watching them, because there's some bits on Netflix and some bits on other platforms.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's many box sets, but the Mastermind sketch, or obviously Four Candles.
The Mastermind sketch is.
If you read the script of that, I would advise anyone read the Mastermind sketch script. It is some of the best comedy sketch writing you will ever see.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's probably my favourite sketch of theirs. Although I like the I'm lower class, I'm middle class, I'm upper class sketch as well.
Yeah.
Is that with John Cleese?
John Cleese, yes, of Fawlty Towers and Monty Python fame, amongst other things.
So funny. But Mastermind sketch is my favourite, I would say.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Terribly sad. But into good news, Michael Jackson was acquitted. Yeah.
Hey, come on.
Lads.
Acquitted. What's that about? I mean,
Jackson's a tough one, because there's been situations in his life where he has been set up, he has been framed, but then he does all this other weird stuff, and you're like, oh, Mikey, oh, you're such
Mikey.
Mike, just leave your nose alone. I don't know.
Leave your nose alone.
It's just sad, because he's one of those things where I know it's hard to separate the art from the person, but he's so great, and he did have such a horrible upbringing, and he's got issues, evidently. I don't think he ever grew up, which plays a massive part in this, but you can't be doing the things that they said. I know there's no necessarily definitive truth to whatever happened, but yeah, it's a difficult one. But
so weird, that whole situation, and in the years that have passed since, the documentary, was it Finding Neverland?
Finding Dory. That was
from last year. Also, Finding Dory, very important in the Michael Jackson case.
Yeah. They found him at Neverland.
Did they? Dory
in bed with Michael.
Oh no!
But he said it was consensual and it was just a sleepover.
Yeah. He thought, lick my bum. Oh, that's not right.
Yeah, but not in a gay way.
Not in a
And
gay
not
way.
predatory way.
Never. Yeah, he was acquitted. So that was, and I mean, I don't want to spoil this podcast too much, but the triumvirate of bad news: Daniel Craig's announced as James Bond.
Yeah, you wait, Craig. You mentioned last time on our Isolation Part 2 radio podcast, available now, that you think one of the ramifications of Corona is that James Bond will still be shit. The movie will still be a pile of poopy woopy. You don't like
all
that,
this.
right?
All this time to reflect on the awful-looking new movie will have done nothing to improve it. And yeah, James Bond was announced to be Daniel Craig in this year. And let's be honest, he started off very well, and he had a Casino Royale. Ooh, Quantum of Solace. He's gone down.
He's gone down.
Skyfall. Oh, Spectre's gone all the way
down.
And the new one,
die off the cliff.
The new one is in. Well, I think it's in New Zealand, so it's gone that low.
Be careful.
It's gone that low.
Yeah.
So that was announced.
Who's your favourite Bond? Who's your favourite Bond? I'm sure we've discussed it before.
There's only one.
Go on.
Pierce.
Piers Morgan. Piers is no one's favourite apart from yours, which is
Piers Morgan.
Yeah,
just a very angry, slightly racist, dumb, horrible Bond. Who's not charming.
Yeah, so James Bond in a nutshell.
Yeah. Pierce Brosnan is the best Bond by far.
Do Pierce Bond. The name's Bond. James Bond.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
James Bond.
I've got a license to kill.
License to farm potatoes.
Yeah.
James.
Yeah.
James.
It's Pierce Brosnan, and then it's Sean Connery, in my mind. Sean Connery's great, but I think he's overrated.
Yeah. I think because I watched a lot of the classic Bonds with Dad back in the day, so I think Sean's classic Bond. Roger took it. Sean was sort of the serious Bond with a little bit of jovial. Roger was he's wacky. He's doing all these wacky things.
I don't like Roger Moore.
And then you go into your Timothy Daltons and all your kind of your one-offs and your two ones. Leave it out.
You're weird ones.
Pierce is there as your standard. Your Pierce, he's there. He's good. He's a good actor. He's got all the traits.
I love him. Some of my favorite GoldenEye. I mean, it's one of the best soundtrack. One of the best Bond films. Love it.
Classic game as well.
And a great game. Great game.
What's not to like? Piers?
Our seal of approval.
Our seal of approval.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
James Bond. So some classic films out of the time. We'll rack through these. Goblet of Fire, I believe, was number one. The Harry Potter film was that the fourth Harry Potter, fifth Harry Potter.
Yeah.
You put your name in a Goblet of Fire. That's my impression of Michael Gambon as Dumbledore. I'm available for impressions. Harry Potter classic, of course. Revenge of the Sith was up there.
Oh, right. Nice. The last in the prequel trilogy.
Last in the prequel trilogy. Obviously, the much maligned and hated prequel trilogy. Although it's clawed its way somewhat back up to relevance after the latest trilogy, which some people are considering to be lower than the original prequel trilogy.
Yes.
You're the Star Wars guy. May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, May the 4th. Revenge of the 5th and Return of the 6th, is it? And we're just going to keep them going.
Return of the 6th.
The Empire Strikes 6th or something like that.
The Empire Strikes Back again.
Yeah, I mean, Revenge of the Sith I thought was pretty good for the prequel trilogy. It was still had Padme in it, and the Anakin Padme relationship was awful.
Yeah,
in the prequel trilogy, and she died not of being choked, but of a broken heart. So
we can all relate to that. It was like when Ronnie Barker died.
Of a broken heart. Is that what they put on his death certificate?
Yeah, I don't know what they put on his grave. If he was buried, I bet he had a great grave.
Yeah, probably.
Probably something like it's "Good Night from Me," something like that.
Oh, That's beautiful.
What can I say?
I want them next to each other. It's good night from him.
Oh,
Good night from me. Oh, I've upset myself.
you know what I'd like to do for Ant and Dec, because they get buried next to each other, and it says Ant and Dec, then they've got an arrow because their names are in the wrong graves.
Funny.
People always confuse them. Wouldn't that be good?
Funny.
Ant and Dec and the little arrow like that.
Funny.
It's all there. I'm available to style your graves if you want. I could write a little,
Style your graves.
you know, a little bit of comedy in there, not a problem. You know, Spike Milligan, of course. I told you I was ill. I mean, classic.
Yeah, very good. Very
Anyway,
good.
Narnia was out. The beginning of the fantastic film franchise, The Chronicles of Narnia, which went
It was worse than James Bond.
worse than James Bond. War of the Worlds, Tom Cruise. A big place in my heart. I know you and your family particularly like War of the Worlds, the original.
Oh yeah.
This movie, Hollywood, it was whatever.
I hated it when it came out because it was different. As the years have passed, I can kind of accept it's an interpretation and it's all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the time, my God, because we're hardcore War of the Worlds fans.
You love it. You listen to it once a day.
Oh, at least. At least.
Do me a favour, people out there. Listen to the original War of the Worlds soundtrack with who was it? Was it Richard Burton that did the? No.
Yeah.
Was it Burton?
Burton was in it. Phil Lynott.
Yes.
David Hicks.
Listen to the original when you're going out for a long country hike, and you will very soon feel like you're in the store. And I've done this. Is my most nerdiest moment. I've done this, and you're walking. What's over the hill? What's over the hill? You're getting really freaked out. Suddenly you find yourself.
What the fuck is that?
Oh, Nathaniel! You're in a church naked. You don't know how you got there. It's weird. After that, I couldn't eat wheat. Don't know why.
No, Beth! I must exorcise the devil! Phil Lynott doing his croakiest voice ever. Incredible. I thought he was going to join a death metal band after that album.
Yeah. He just joined a death band because he died.
Yeah. I love Phil Lynott.
Good guy, Phil Lynott. Madagascar was out. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was out. Not the best film. It was fine. I'm not a big Burton guy. I like the quote about everything in this room is edible. Even I'm edible, but that's called cannibalism and is banned in most countries or whatever. I think that's a funny bit of scripting. But
that's funny, yeah.
Yeah, it was fine. You know what I'm excited about, which I only found out the other day, thanks to Sam actually, that Taika Waititi is doing like a new Willy Wonka thing. And he's doing like the origin of the Oompa Loompas.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing.
Doesn't that sound hilarious? I'm sure this is real. On Netflix.
Is that the guy that's doing the new Star Wars?
Yeah.
Oh.
He did Thor, obviously he's done loads.
Yeah, did Thor, Ragnarok and
did he Hunt for the Wilder People?
1917? Oh no, the script writer.
The script writer did, yeah.
That he's doing it with.
What we do in the shadows. I mean, Taika's.
Yeah.
I'm so glad he's getting the recognition. He deserves. And also, he just did the war one, didn't he? With Thingy and Stephen Merchant and all that. Oh, what was it called? That won the award for script writing at the Oscars. You know,
Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit. Back to Nazis. It's come full circle. Anyway,
Jojo Rabbit's really good. Really good.
I'm glad that he's getting the recognition he deserves.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to music, considering this is a music special. We better wrap.
It seems to be if we for at least a third longer than if we were recording.
Unbelievable. The music in 2005. What was going on?
So we always like to talk about Glastonbury. It's the biggest festival of in the UK. Kylie was supposed to be headlining, but then had to pull out because she was diagnosed with breast cancer, which she thankfully recovered from.
Question is, would you ever pull out of Kylie?
If she had breast cancer, no, I'd stay in. She could have them both off and I'd still be in there.
Feminists.
So who headlined Glastonbury? Friday night was the White Stripes.
White Stripes. Yeah, the White Stripes. Good band. Good band. Good band. Saturday, Coldplay.
Yeah, Coldplay.
Coming off the back of X and Y, another great Coldplay album. I forgot the first 4 albums. Unbelievable.
Oh my God, so good.
We'll talk about that in a minute when we actually talk about music. Sunday, the replacement for Kylie. They could have got anyone. A diva, fantastic group. Someone could have stepped in. Who did they choose for the Sunday headline?
Oh, let me ring them up. Hello, is that Basement Jaxx?
Right.
It's a weird choice. I remember it at the time, actually. I remember the Coldplay performance and the White Stripes performance, but I was like, who the hell was the third? And then I remember I had like this all over again. The annoyance that it was Basement Jaxx. I had that last night for a second time in my life.
Nobody wants a 2-hour Basement Jaxx set.
Not really.
Nobody wants a 2-minute Basement Jaxx set. Let's be honest.
Not
Stick
really.
them in the basement. See you later.
Glastonbury had awful rain this year.
It was some crazy statistic, wasn't it? A month's rain in 2 hours?
A month's rain in 2 hours on the Friday. So the Friday morning was postponed for a few hours. Yeah, awful. I was looking at the news reports from it. Very bad. Worse than when. So I went in 2009 and had awful rain as well, but this was considerably worse.
I'd say worse than Hurricane Katrina. I would say.
Yeah, it was compared at the time.
Yeah.
But it's our Katrina, and they went, you can't say that.
Yeah. No, that was a band that they were playing.
Our Katrina were. Yeah. They got cancelled.
Shame.
Yeah.
What else was going on?
Much like us. Much like us.
We're just joking. Big gig, big, amazing,
huge
gig in Live 8.
Yeah, just a month later after Glastonbury in the July. Live 8, 20 years.
8. Not Aid, 8.
Yeah, apparently they were going to call it Live Aid 2, but then Geldof didn't want it to be seen as a sequel, even though it definitely was.
Yeah, it was.
So they called it Live 8.
I'd have called it Live 8, the difficult second album.
Yeah. It was,
Make Poverty History again.
Again. All that money you gave last time, again.
Yeah.
For the G8 summit, which was a big political summit, it was therefore called Live 8. So it's a weird one on reflection.
Geldof's a weird one, isn't he?
He is strange.
He's not.
He is strange.
He's done a lot for charity, but why him? He's not that good.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
Boomtown Rats were only ever an okay band.
Very okay. Very okay.
Yeah.
If not even that.
Karaoke.
Yeah, they were more karaoke than okay.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And he spent the entire, well, not the entire, but he mentioned on the run-up to the show that Boomtown Rats would not perform. We don't deserve to be on the stage with these great artists, so-and-so. Then, I think, not long in, I'm going to bloody have a go and play.
Give me that mic. Who remembers this one about Mondays?
Tell me why I don't like Mondays. Tell me why I don't like the Boomtown Rats. It's because they're shit.
Do they have Mondays in Africa? Don't know. Write a song about it. They definitely don't have Christmas. See you in a bit.
They don't have Chris. Funny.
Lots of people there. Pink Floyd reunited. Iconic.
The one and only time in 24 years. So 24 years. And you add another 15 years to that. So it's their one and only performance in 39 years.
Blimey.
That's depressing, isn't it? It's one of my favourite bands.
Yeah,
they haven't played a gig they played one gig in 40 years.
Supported by, supporting Bob Geldof.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of good people there. I mean, we couldn't do the whole list. The Who,
Everyone.
Paul McCartney, Williams, loads of celebrities. I think Ricky Gervais presented something.
Yeah, Lenny Henry.
Peter Kay.
Supposed to run.
Lenny was there.
Supposed to run until about 10 o'clock, or no, 6 maybe. Ran till half midnight. And I looked up the running order. So, I mean, it's just 10:30 to half midnight. This is what we witnessed in the UK. David Beckham introduced Robbie Williams. Then Peter Kay came on, played "Is This Way the Way to Amarillo?" Then The Who, Pink Floyd reunited, and Paul McCartney. What is this? A fucking wet dream or something?
You just need Kylie Minogue in there.
Well, yeah, in and out.
Yeah, amazing. For a lost cause, essentially, but an amazing gig.
Yeah, when you look back, it really was. It's not every year that something like that comes around that you get that kind of ridiculous lineup, and we've not really. I guess that there were those. There's been various charity benefit concerts since, and there was one for Katrina, which I'm going to talk about later. But yeah, it was. I loved Live 8, and I love Live Aid.
Well, it's one of the most iconic, days of all in history, isn't it? Period.
Yeah,
very pertinent to pop culture, and has some of the best live performances of all time. Who could forget? Obviously, Queen and others. Phil Collins flew to 2 different countries.
He did.
The logistics of that. I mean,
Very
Phil
cool.
Collins, of all the people, they chose Phil.
Of all the people to fly.
Yeah. Phil,
someone.
I've got a lot of time for Phil. But why did they use him as the example? Look what we can do. We're going to Concorde him in, and he can do his hits in 2 countries. Strange.
Yeah. I guess he was big at the time, but he certainly wasn't the biggest.
No.
So
I know. I would dress someone up as him, like Bill Collins.
maybe we'll talk about some Phil Collins songs later.
Oh. Well, I suppose we should move on to music. Really, 2005 was a deep dive there into what was going on. We did miss the most important news of 2005, actually, when an abusive passenger spent 36 hours on a tiny Atlantic island after the airline dumped him there, 300 miles from his destination. Yeah, he was kicked off the plane for being a naughty boy on a small island. And had to charter like a German plane out of there a few days later, which is great. That's great.
That's the news of the year.
News of 2005. Maybe I'll drop a little one in there, a little bit more obscure later on as well.
You've got some obscure news stories.
I've got some obscure news stories, but I'll lay them in. I'll drop them in. I just thought we needed to know that 2005 really the peak was this guy getting dropped on a small island for being an arsehole. Which, if only that happened to Bob Geldof.
Yeah. You don't like Bob Geldof, do you, mate?
He's all right. Tell me why. So, let's talk about albums. Let's be quick about it.
Yes.
What are some interesting albums from the year 2005? Not your favourites yet. Let's meander through the river of music. Name me some albums that were important.
That's quite pretty.
Thank you. You're quite pretty.
Thank you.
It's the difference.
I know.
You called me ugly earlier, but I'm calling you pretty. This is the dynamic we're doing for comic effect. Thank you.
Okay. So, this is a year of some good albums. Even albums that I would say are fantastic that won't even get into the top 3 of the year.
You're having me on, you. Carry on.
Sorry?
What? Nothing, mate.
So, just going to remember that.
Pop that one in the diary. That's not going anywhere.
We spoke about them earlier. I am going to mention Coldplay X and Y is not in my top 3. But good Lord, what a good album.
Speed of Sound, Fix You. The hardest part.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Other songs, good. The singles were great, but good album overall.
Good album overall.
Is that the last of their stadium rock Coldplay sort of sound, and then they moved into a more overly produced pop sound? Could be. Can't remember.
Yes, I think for me, the next album was Viva La Vida, I think, which had some good singles, but the sound was much more commercial, much more poppy.
Yeah.
This was quite electronic.
Yeah.
Which was different anyway, but a great album. Other great indie albums from that year, you had Maximo Park released A Certain Trigger, which had Apply Some Pressure on it.
Good.
You had Silent Alarm, Block Party, really big album. What else? Indie-wise, we had the first Baby Shambles album.
Oh, wow. Wow, that is important.
Was, really good, the year after the Libertines split up.
Mm-hmm.
So a great year for indie. Any indie tracks that any indie albums, sorry, that you've got?
Indie alternative in the Magic Numbers. Debut, I believe, called the Magic Numbers.
They were good, yeah.
Love Me Like You.
Very odd-looking band, the Magic Numbers.
Yes, they are.
Lots of long hair, lots of long beards.
What are they called? Love Me Like You, something like Love Is the Art. A couple of songs about love on it, back to back, really pretty.
Yeah.
Underrated band for me. I think they're a very, very good band, especially the first couple of albums. But they've actually remained very good throughout. They blew up then; they were everywhere. They played festivals everywhere. Glastonbury, I'm sure. Big old hairy boys, and
big hairy. Had a
couple of ladies in there as well.
Female, yeah.
Female bass player, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, that was really good. So yeah, not kind of indie, but more kind of alternative. Yeah, indie, not really. Mine are more kind of bit broader than that. Things like Jack Johnson, In Between Dreams,
Yeah. Is that the one with the yellow cover? The yellow cover one?
Oh, possibly. It's the one with Better Together on it, isn't it? I'm sure.
Right.
Better when we're together.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, it was a strange year for albums, really, because there was a big mix of well, we'll talk about it. You can go from singer-songwriter to kind of pop, but then there was like popra in G4. Remember G4 from X Factor and Il Vivo were both in the charts at the same time. There's sort of pseudo opera pop, and they named it Popera, and that came out of nowhere. Well, it came out of
where did that come
Cowell's back pocket. But there was like a load of opera on the radio, on my primetime radio. It's really weird, really rare.
Okay, nice.
Any other albums?
I've got Welcome to Jam Rock by Damian Marley, which got that huge single, the title track on, but it's also a really good album. And then I've got a lot of metal and rock. So
yes, let me think of anything before metal and rock. Good compilation albums out. I know it's a bit of a cheat. Greatest Hits, The Offspring. I was listening to that all around New Zealand, the one with the black cover and the logo. You remember that?
Nice. Yeah.
Amazing album. Bullet in a Bible,
so
the live Green Day album from Milton Keynes.
Oh, nice.
Remember that?
Nice.
What else was good in the more alternative? Life in Slow Motion, David Gray did very well.
Nice.
Better rated albums. Intensive Care, Robbie Williams. That was up the top of one of the biggest selling albums of that year. Bits and Monkey Business, Black Eyed Peas.
Nice.
I think he might have had some singles out the year before, possibly not.
Yeah.
Good album that had like Pump It On and things like that. Don't Funk on My Heart.
Don't Funk on My Heart.
Those throwaway songs. They're fun, but they haven't got much merit,
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of rock and metal actually. So I shall let you kick off the rock and metal.
Yeah. So when it comes to things that nearly snuck in, X and Y and Baby Shambles were close, but mainly rock and metal were quite close. So my favorite of the rest was probably Poison, Bullet for My Valentine.
Classic.
Which was a really really great album. I thought when I first looked at this year, and I sort of saw what came out. I thought that might be one of my top 3.
Mm.
I've listened back to certain tracks. It's aged not fantastically.
It's a shame.
It's quite corny in terms of lyrics. It's a good album, and I loved it when I was at this age. Great album. Very close to sneaking onto the top 3, but obviously, Tears Don't Fall, All These Things I Hate Revolve Around Me. What else was on that album? Other songs.
Other than that was song, I really like Tears Don't Fall was my favourite from the album because
4 Words to Choke Upon, things like that were the big singles.
Your tears don't fall, they crash around me.
That's the one. The single was released after in 2006, but it was on the album from.
That's right. Yeah.
What else? From Under the Cork Tree, Fall Out Boy.
Classic.
Had Dance Dance and Sugar We're Going Down.
It nearly crept onto my singles list, but it didn't.
Very close, yeah.
Because I think I really like that song, but I think how often do I actually listen to that song? Never. But I've said before, it's got one of my favourite ever lyrics in it, which is I'm just a notch in your bedpost, you're just a line in a song. I think that is a fantastic lyric.
One of my favourite lyrics as well. I love that lyric. It's so good.
Amazing.
Good album as well. Probably don't know the album as well as
Infinity on High, probably, but
yes, yeah, that was the one after, wasn't it? With the like Jay-Z on the first track.
Weird.
What else came out? I mean, it's interesting from doing this that we've kind of gone like 2000. A lot of like skater, what would be called nu metal, but kind of like, and now we're getting into the kind of the big emo. So you've got things like 30 Seconds to Mars, A Beautiful Lie. You've got Fall Out Boy. You've got A Fever You Can't Sweat Out, Panic at the Disco. Big kind of like very popular albums from when I was at school, and with all the I had the hair, and just a great time for music.
Great time for music, and being in a group full of quirky people. Metal was huge. I mean, I've got such a big list of those kind of mid-noughties metal bands that just died a bit of a death, but I think Judas Priest had an album this year actually. And Warcry, Hammerfall, Black Label Society, Queens of the Stone Age, Napalm Death, they all had albums. Nile, Dream Theater had albums. As I Lay Dying, Static X, Devil Driver, just endless of these metal bands. They were always there, but I never really delved into them. Rammstein, Opeth, I guess I was into those. Children of Bodom.
Reveries, right?
So many metal, so many metal albums. Like
when I looked up this year, Reverie, quite a lot of metal and rock publications put Reveries as their album of the year.
It's a great album. Still nearing towards more of a progressive sounds, melodic, still quite dark in there. But they're all. I mean, every Opeth album has a gem on it. You know what I mean? Still prefer their slightly more recent stuff, but probably from Sorceress. I've really got into Sorceress, but.
System of a Down had Mesmerize, Hypnotize.
Yeah, just metal was
metal was amazing,
unbelievable.
I mean, I've got even the second Darkness album, One Way Ticket.
Yeah, it was. I remember being extremely disappointed by that album when it came out, for the reason that it's overproduced and it was a bit sterile for me. But going back to it. There's some good songs to be had on there. I mean, Is It Just Me? Is a good song. One Way Ticket, the title song. But there's other good songs on there, like Dinner Lady Arms is a great song that never gets played, but it's a really funny song. Hazel Eyes was released as a single. I think it was Good Girlfriend, which was quite a funny song with a bit of synth in it. So actually, it's not as bad as I thought it was at the time, but man,
Yeah.
was disappointed coming off Permission to Land.
Same. I absolutely agree. I thought it was absolute rubbish when it got released, but actually have gone back and quite enjoyed it for what it is. But yeah, I mean, it was no Permission to Land, that's for sure, which we both hail as one of the, I mean, it's one of the best hard rock albums I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And yeah, the second album just didn't live up to it. But yeah, it is a good album. On retrospect, definitely, it is quite a good album.
Some good songs.
There was one album I wanted to talk about before we got to the top three, which was the All-Star Sessions from Roadrunner United.
Was that the one was with Joey Jordanson? And
yeah, so it was a really cool album where they had everyone on Roadrunner Records. They had 4-team the idea of 4-team captains. So it was Rob Flynn from Machine Head, Matt Heafy from Trivium, Joey Jordison, and somebody else I can't remember. And all the bands like sort of broke up, wrote new material. I'm not sure who wrote it all actually, and then all recorded parts. So there were great tracks. The Dagger.
I remember that.
The End, which was sung by Matt Heafy, but had members of Sepultura, I think, and The End sung by Rob Flynn. It was just a mix-up of everyone who was signed to the record label with original music. It was really cool.
Real kind of dream lineup scenario, which is always nice when people actually aren't afraid to go, actually, yeah, let's put these people together in a room and see what they come up with. Yeah,
it was really good.
Being all over Metal Hammer and Kerrang! At the time.
Yeah,
really good, really good.
Any other albums to mention before we get to the top three?
Not really, no. I think it's a good comedy album, good live comedy album called The Craig Machine by Stephen Lynch. Mentioned Stephen Lynch before. Good comedy songwriter, does parodies and originals and things. I think it was his second. I think it was his second live album. Some really good tracks on there. Vanilla Ice Cream's like an anti-racism song. It's very funny. Beals about being Satan. There's some good stuff on there. So I'd recommend that for anyone. And of course, well, the best album 2005, You Can't See Me by John Cena. I know what you're thinking. Where have they gone? We can't see them.
I'm here. You just can't see me.
Yeah, recorded with like his cousin or something, or his brother.
Can I give you a 5-knuckle shuffle, mate?
Yeah. Oh, don't do that at that height. It looks a bit weird. It's well, wrestling fans will know. If you're not a wrestling fan, just Google John Cena album, and there'll be some hard cuts in there for you to take a look at.
Some basic thugonomics.
It's just basic thugonomics, mate. I think we should move on to our top three, mate. Would you like to kick us off with your...
After... I don't know how I'm going to follow a John Cena album with this,
No.
but I will try. So my top three were tough to pick. There are...
I like that we're at least 40 minutes in and we're only just getting to our top three. Oh, dear. This is bumper content, guys. Bumper content, because...
My bum already... hurts so much.
Yeah.
So that's good too. These three, the top two, I would say, are interchangeable. This one is even quite close to the top as well. I love this album so much. Number 3 is Young for Eternity, The Subways.
Footlongs. Previously known as the Footlongs, now known as the Subways.
The 6 inches, the extra jalapenos.
Yeah.
And talking of which, this album is a spicy mix.
Good. Seamless links there. We will do radio at some point. We are available to do radio. So
it's the debut album from the Subways. I first heard the Subways on an episode of The OC.
Nice.
Do you remember that show?
I do remember that. Well, the Subways, of course, they were an underground band.
With Misha. What's her name? Misha? What was the lady's name from the OC? I can't remember.
No idea.
Barton? Misha Barton or something?
That could be right. It rings a bell, like Quasimodo.
Yeah. So I heard them on there playing Rock and Roll Queen. which was the really big single.
All over the radio. I remember that.
Yeah. And then went into them from there. It's kind of like a garage rock, kind of punk soundy album.
Very thrashy, but there's some melodic in there. A lot of old
kind of like
influences.
DIY kind of sounding. It's not the best recorded album you've ever heard by any means, but it kind of adds to it.
It just feels live, doesn't it? It feels like you're in the room.
It does. Yeah, it does feel live. 5 singles in the year, released January to December. 1 a.m. Oh yeah, Rock and Roll Queen, With You, and No Goodbyes were released. And yeah, just a couple of standout tracks that I've pulled out. So Holiday is kind of like a really heavy kind of punky track that's really good. Rock and Roll Queen, obviously, a standout.
2 songs coming out called Holiday in the same year with Green Day, Holiday and Subway.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. Would Green Day have been the year before?
No, I think Holiday come out in 2005. Yeah,
the single was right. Yeah, because it was American Idiot, then Boulevard.
Yeah, and
then Holiday, then Jesus of Suburbia.
Yeah,
maybe.
Oh, no. Wake Me Up was in between. Yeah,
Wake Me Up was 2005 as well. Yeah. Young for Eternity, which is just like a punk kind of like thrashy song,
title track,
which has got some great lyrics. Just thank God for Dracula, he sucked the shit out of me. Now I can leave my work for nights and leave my days for sleeping. Just that. Really cool lyrics. And then it changes up at points. Lines of Light and She Sun is kind of this kind of like melancholic, like acoustic ballad with incredible harmonies. There's a female in the band. So that they have some a woman in a rock and roll band. Couple of feminists,
couple of boys.
Yeah, just this kind of like very sad, almost Radiohead-esque kind of melancholy on 2 tracks, She Sun and Lines of Light, really good. But yeah, it's just a really, really great album. One of my favourite indie albums from the time.
You know what I think when I hear the Subways is I think of the band that Noel joined in the Mighty Boosh that did I did a shit on your mum. I did a shit on your mum.
I did a shit on your dad.
Yeah, and he really liked it. That's what they
he really liked it. Yeah, they do sound a bit like that.
Yeah,
it's kind of it's very. I put them in the indie section, but I mean they're practically a punk band. I mean they're very punky.
Indie punk indie, punk slash indie, Pindy.
Punk slash indie, and yeah, it's the 15th anniversary of this album, 15th anniversary of all these albums, and Subways are touring thanks to COVID. I would have seen them by now, but I am going to their 15th anniversary show where they will play the album in its entirety.
Thank you.
I cannot wait. It's been rescheduled for later in the year. But yes, Young for Eternity, The Subways, number 3. Fantastic album. Love it. Go listen to it. Turn this off now. Go listen to that.
Don't advocate that. I did a shit on your dad.
On your mum. I did a shit on your dad. And he really liked it.
People don't know that. Mighty Boosh sketch. It's funny. Watch it. Mighty Boosh.
That's my number 3.
It's on us. Number 3. So I've gone for another in my listing that perhaps the average Joe might not necessarily know. Signs of Life, Poets of the Fall. You're not cool.
Don't know it. Not interested.
Not interested. Move on.
Go listen to that Subways album.
Signs of Life. So I've mentioned Poets a couple of times. I don't think they've made it in the playlist yet. Well, they couldn't have. Their debut album, so they haven't.
Nice.
Debut album. So people that don't know, alternative rock band. This particular album went straight to number 1 on the Finnish charts, so pretty good for a debut album to go straight to the top. Certified platinum. It remained in the top 40 for a year in Finland. Obviously, Finland has a different way they kind of chart music, but basically, the rock and metal is popular music, as is pop. You know what I mean? There's no. It's just you can have your rock chart and whatnot, but it's such a small country, and everybody except metal and rock and pop and punk, they were just all one big kind of musical family, which is how it should be, really.
If only that was the way.
Yeah, like we said, a good song's a good song. So they thought it was good. So top 40 for over a year, which is good. So just a really solid rock debut album, very kind of soft vocals, a lot of kind of falsetto, but there's some depth there as well. Quite theatrical kind of way that Marco sings. So there's kind of a lot of darkness, melancholy in the songs. They do touch on themes like love and hope and things as well, but there's been quite a lot of comparisons between their lyrics and sort of poetry, which some songwriters will decree that poetry and songwriting it couldn't be more different. Some people will say there is some crossover. I think there is some crossover. I think people, when they say poetry, in terms of Poets of the Fall, for example, there's a lot of metaphors and imagery and kind of narrative within the writing, which I think is why people think it's poetry. But the song I'm going to pick for the playlist, which you didn't actually say which one you're going to pick for the Subway, so you'd have to think about that.
True. I'll have to think about it. Yeah. I'm
going to pick Late Goodbye, and that did actually start off as a poem that they then turn into a song. So there you are. Examples of their kind of lyrics: she's here to write her name on my skin with kisses in the rain, stuff like that. Very beautiful, nice. Poetic, and flows. And that was from a song called Someone Special. But really good band, alternative rock. They've got great riffs. Ollie's great guitarist, can play solo. He's one of those guitarists that plays it when it needs it. Will play for the song. I think they're all like that. They're very respectful of the craft, which is something that interests me. They won't overplay. They won't dominate. There doesn't appear to be many egos. Perhaps there are. I don't know. But I've met them once, and they were lovely. So.
You've got a picture with them, right?
I did, yeah. It's on my social somewhere. Maybe I'll put it up at some point on our page.
Yeah,
but, lovely guys. So some great solos, some great riffs. Mixture of styles in there. A lot of acoustic guitar. Not afraid to lead a song with an acoustic folk feel. Some orchestral stuff. It's thanks to having a couple of really good producers that are within the band, especially the keys player. It comes from a production background, so they it's a very polished debut. You know what I mean? That because they have that knowledge of. Kind of the sonic space and how to really sonically make a song stand out, as well as it just being a good song, But so some orchestral stuff in there, some acoustic stuff in there. You could kind of tell in this album they're a band on the edge of something really good, although this album did very well for them. Very cinematic, a bit like a soundtrack, takes you on a journey, But just a great album. And I picked the song Late Goodbye because that was in Max Payne 2. A lot of people might know that if they were gaming.
Oh, nice.
So they were friends with Remedy, actually, the guys that was a Finnish gaming company.
Right.
They had friends within Remedy, hence why Poets do songs for Alan Wake and their Remedy's latest game, which I can't remember the name of now. Control. Yeah, they did one of the title tracks for that as well. So.
Oh right, cool.
Yeah, so they'll be in the minds of a lot of people. In fact, I heard of them from Alan Wake. So. Gaming was what kind of tied me to them. But so I've picked Late Goodbye because people will know it. He puts on a bit of an American accent because they kind of had to, but that made it onto the album. Other good tracks: Sleep's a really good album, really good song. Stay, Someone Special was the lyrics I mentioned earlier. Every track has class, has personality of its own, and I think that it's one of those albums that there's real potential. You can see there's real potential in the band, and it's just different, man. They're alt rock, but they're kind of bit orchestral, bit acoustic, bit kind of theatrical, nice kind of mixture of styles. So I would recommend it. I'd recommend that album for people that haven't maybe heard them or they've heard them on the game. There's some depth there, and I think for a first album, pretty damn good. So Signs of Life, that would be my third favourite album of 2005.
And they're still going.
Still going, yeah. There's 6 or 7 albums in. Latest album was great as well. I'm sure they'll come up throughout the rest of the 21st Century Breakdown because they've had 2 or 3 other albums that have been some of the top albums of the year for me personally. Yeah, really, really good band. Still going to see them live a number of times. Great live, huge sound for an alt rock band. They're not afraid to have really have it in your face, loud kind of sound. You know, that's not necessarily. It would be a complete contradiction from the Subways. You know, in a kind of a garage rock setting, it's very polished. But yeah, just a really cool band. Nice guys, good songs.
Nice.
What more do you want, eh? Stick them on the box.
Get them in the playlist.
Get them in.
I will put in the title track, "Young for Eternity" from the Subways, I think.
Yeah.
Which we can recap at the end. What we're putting in, but yeah, that'll be fine. So we've got our tracks for those. Number 2, for myself is so like I said, the first 2 are very interchangeable for me and completely different, showing my connection to quite heavy metal, rock, and hip hop.
Well, our playlists are always varied, mate. They're always varied.
Yeah, absolutely. So my second favourite album of the year is the second album from Trivium called Ascendancy.
Classic.
They released this album and basically just shot to one of the biggest metal bands on the planet kind of overnight. It's a huge album, hugely important for I only came across the term afterwards, but the new wave of American heavy metal, much like the new wave of British heavy metal with Maiden in the 80s. The new wave of American heavy metal, people say it started sometime in the mid-90s with bands like Machine Head, then blew up with bands like Korn, and then had bands like Avenged, Trivium, Bullet, you know, bands like that, but also System of a Down and bands like that. But yeah, they blew up overnight essentially. One album of the year with Kerrang, and Dying in Your Arms was nominated for the single of the year. And then
one of my least favourite on the albums, probably, but on the album,
Dying in Your Arms.
I like it.
Absolutely.
I think we probably both agree there's something quite corny about. Basically, it's the chorus. Actually, I like all the rest of it, and I'm like, oh, he's telling me. Yeah,
I totally agree. Never actually liked that track really at all. It's really? The weakest track of the album by far, and but nominated for the single of the year. Not sure why, but as time has gone on. Metal Hammer named it 100 Greatest Albums of the 21st Century. It was 11th in the list.
Wow, that's high.
That's pretty high.
I'm not sure if that's too high. I think it's probably too high, but good luck to them, I say. Good luck for the boys.
Good luck to them, I say. It's the lift pitch for the album is there's absolutely crushing screams throughout. Massive soaring choruses. Loads of technical melodic guitar, although less than later in their career. Super fast and technical drums as well. Incredible drums on this album.
Amazing. Travis. Great drummer.
Yeah. 4 singles released this year. Light to Flies, Pull Harder on Your Strings, You Martyr, Gunshot to the Head of Trepidation. Just the longest titles ever.
Many times I've tried to play along to Pull Harder to some degree of success, although there's definitely the way they've laid it in the studio is like impossible to replicate because there's toms and other things going on. But really great drums on that song.
And Dying in Your Arms being the last single. It's for me probably one of my top, I don't know, 10 or 15 metal albums ever. The beginning starts with this orchestral track, the end of everything that builds, massive orchestral piece, and then goes into Rain, which is just one of the heaviest and one of my favorite opening metal riffs out of this huge orchestral piece. Really cool. Pull Harder on the Strings, Your Master, which Jack mentioned. The drums are just crazy.
Yeah, one of the best drum intros. One of the best drum intros.
So cool. Very, very cool.
Very
Gunshot to the Head of Trepidation, another one of the singles. The opening instrumental, guitar through the rest of the track's really great. Probably quite influential in my guitar playing or what I wanted to try and achieve. Very riff-based, quite technical. I mean, I've not achieved anywhere near as good as Matt and the other members of the band, but yeah, really good. Dying in Your Arms, like we said, not that good. They put like a microphone effect on Matt's voice at the beginning.
Yes, that's right.
And very, very corny.
Mm.
But other tracks that I would recommend, Suffocating Sight is kind of like a gent style beginning that then kind of goes into more kind of what they would get into and how metal would progress through the decade into kind of like odd time signatures and almost like replicating like a Mastodon sort of style, which comes out, my favorite Mastodon albums comes out in 2006.
Little teaser.
Little tease with odd time signatures and odd riffs and scales, and this is more of a straight album. Their later albums go into that kind of more.
So when you say straight album, sorry, do you mean? Might want to clarify that one.
Yeah, oh yeah. There's none of that on this. No.
Right. Okay.
This is just a couple of big boys thrashing away.
But we would like to say there's nothing wrong with a bit of that. It's just there's none of that on this.
I'll be talking about that later, actually.
So he'll be talking about that later, but there's none of that on this. But he's not saying that there's anything wrong with that. It's just there's no that on this, but he'll talk about that later.
Yeah. And we're not.
We're not.
But we could be. It wouldn't be a...
We're not, but it's okay if we think we are. Into that, but we're not.
Is it okay if we are? Maybe I am a little bit for you.
That's okay. Maybe I'm a bit for you.
Oh, good.
But I'm a bit for you. Should we talk about this off air?
I'm doing my 5-knuckle shuffle again.
How are you?
Yeah. Departure, really good mix of acoustic and heavy screams. In my mind, kind of much better than Dying in Your Arms for a kind of more of a ballad, although there are screams in it, and a really fast thrash section. And then at the end, just a really great cover of Master and Puppets.
Random. Chuck it in there.
Get that in there. Yeah, I mean, Trivium are a band that they blew up here, and then they released The Crusade, and it was awful, and then everyone took the piss out of them for the rest of their career.
But for trying to be Metallica, yeah.
I still think they're one of the best metal bands going.
Right.
Their latest album's fantastic as well. And yeah, Ascendancy is quintessential mid-2000s metal for me. And good luck to them, I say.
Good luck to him, I say. One of my favourite Trivium songs, not on this album, it might have been off The Crusade, Detonation.
Nice.
Often missed out. Nice. That's the song that I was playing that I got told off by the council, and there was a noise complaint put in against me for playing along to that song back in the day. So
not surprised. I saw Trivium the next album and thought they were awful. That's the only time I've seen them, which is a shame. I'd love to see them again, but they supported Iron Maiden and they were doing the Crusade tour, and I hate that album with a passion.
You're going to go on a bloody crusade, aren't you, to destroy that album? A little crusade.
Wipe that one from the history, because the rest are all really good.
Well, my number 2. Oh, what track are you picking?
I'm going to pick Pull Harder.
Pull Harder on My Finger. Whoops. Whoopsie. Good song. Well, in the same vein, that sort of metalcore vein, we're moving into my number 2. City of Evil, Avenged Sevenfold. One of my favourite albums of all time. We've ummed and ahed. What is the best Avenged album? Is it Waking the Fallen? Is it Sound of the Seventh Trumpet? Is it Later On? Is it Nightmare? Let me lay this to rest for you. There are different types. There are different types. Shut your face. This is the best. There are different stages of Avenged.
Yeah.
This is their 3rd album, City of Evil. In my opinion, my humble opinion, it's the best recorded drum kit on a metal album I've ever heard, for me. Although Trivium has some wonderfully produced drums. I'm sure people will be like, yeah, but what about this? What about Dream Theater? No. We'll get into this. It's probably
what about Rush?
What about, yes, Leave me, more like no, get out of my face.
Yeah. Why would you mention yes? That's a left field mention.
You're never going to meet them.
What about Jethro Tull?
Hello. What about Tull? This week on Rock and Roll Up, we're talking Jethro Tull. So, third album, production great. They're moving away from metalcore and they're going more heavy metal, hard rock. A lot of people, whoa, they tuned out. Not me, baby, because I wasn't so into screamo then. I'm not a mental guy on the kind of screaming voices now, but I can handle it now. Back in the day, I wasn't sure about it. So M Shadow, the singer, worked for months on a voice that had kind of grit, but it wasn't screaming because he'd ruptured his voice multiple times already, as he's continued to do throughout his career. He's destroyed his vocal cords because, unfortunately, I don't think his technique is particularly good. So he worked with people that worked with Axl Rose, hence his kind of squeak.
And Matt Heafy did exactly the same thing.
Matt Heafy did the same thing.
Blew his voice out. He's now very good. Yeah. His screams are fine. But yeah, a lot of these guys blew their voice out that were doing metal at this time.
Years of practice. There is a technique to screamo, breath control, diaphragm, etc., etc. Don't try this at home, kids. So he worked at home to kind of get better. Worked with some voice coaches. The Rev, amazing drummer, rest in peace.
Absolutely.
Practiced for hours to try and get to kind of 210 beats per minute on his kick drum. He was just sitting there hammering and hammering and hammering until he was already good, but they were all a bit like, you're good, but can you be gooder?
Can you be the best drummer in the world?
Yeah, and he was like, I accept that challenge. So, the album. Let me give you some stats. Number 63 in Guitar World's 100 greatest guitar albums of all time. Number 35 in Kerrang's 50 greatest metal albums of all time. It made multiple lists over the years for Kerrang's albums To Hear Before You Die, Rolling Stone's greatest metal album of all time. I think Backcountry, the single, went gold, I'm pretty sure. Album went platinum. It ended somewhere around 30 on the Billboard chart for a metal album, which is very good. They won Best New Artist at 2006 MTV Video Music Awards, beat Rihanna for a metal band.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So this album for me is, I think I like it a lot, actually, because I only found this out kind of recently. A lot of it was inspired by European power metal. So it's a very speed metal album.
It's very.
You can hear that they've moved slightly away from the metalcore. A lot of experimentation, a lot of long, drawn-out 9, 10, 8, 7-minute songs in there. Strength for the World, like a 9-10-minute song. Orchestral beginning for like 2 minutes. It's like the Red Dead soundtrack, and then they're going into a riff. You know, there's like a whole load of Seize the Day. It's kind of an acoustic ballad. You know, they weren't afraid to move away from kind of metalcore sensibilities and go, actually, what are other artists doing? What do we like? And we're going to kind of incorporate that. And I think Warner really stood behind them with that, which is great. One thing I found out, which ties it all together, is that M Shadows voted Ecliptica one of his top 5 albums of 2014, which is a Sonata Arctica album.
Oh,
it's
your
a
favorite
revisited album. And Sinister Gates is a massive Sonata fan. So I was like, hallelujah. So no wonder I like them. So
yeah, right.
Highlights for me from the album probably wouldn't be the first single. I know people know Beast in the Harlot from their great intro to the great metal intro. Talking of intro, Backcountry, great single. Backcountry was a song that was on loads of people's phones, even when they weren't metal fans, which was one of the first times I'd noticed chavs listening to metal.
Yeah.
Some perhaps non-singles, Blinded and Chains, I think it's a good song. Trashed and Scattered is a real speed metal song for the kind of the speed metal enthusiasts. Big vocal. Some people don't like his turn of vocal because it was a bit kind of. I know you initially were quite wary of it. Shadows.
I love the music so much.
Yeah.
That M Shadows has got a voice that is hard to get used to, I would say. It's kind of like Axl Rose with a lower register.
Yeah.
It's a strange voice. It's grown on me over the years, but yeah, this is not one of the reasons why this is not one of my favorite. Well, it's one of my favorite Avenged albums, but not my favorite.
Yeah.
Is his voice is a touch nasally for me, although there are tracks on here I love, like Sidewinder. I absolutely love that track. Incredible.
Well, Sidewinder will be my pick for the playlist, actually.
Oh, I've stolen your bit on
Mark.
Sidewinder. Sorry, mate.
My sound's
Sorry, just mute you. Just yeah.
I'm actually going to pick.
Did you have a whole bit to say on Sidewinder?
Yeah. Well, it's just a great song. It's like 7-ish minutes. I mean, it's got the orchestral elements in there. It's got the riffs. I think I think his voice, it's a shame that he'd only just started to learn to sing in that way on this album, because I think if he'd done it like 2-3 years later, it would have been a lot more people it would have been more accessible album for people, although it did very well. But I mean, I've never heard a metal album quite like this, actually. It's a hybrid of hard rock, heavy metal, power metal. There's a lot of stuff there. But yeah, I chose Sidewinder because it's one of my favourite drum tracks of all time from a drummer's perspective. I would urge anyone doesn't really know or doesn't really think much about the drums, really try and listen to the drum track. I'm sure there's isolated versions out there you can listen to. One of my favourites to play, one of my favourites to listen to. It's the nuance. He was a very, very musical drummer, which will confuse some people, but there's speed in there, of course. There's technical ability. Look at the amount of practice that he had. But it's the way that he writes drum hooks. It's like it's a piano part. It's like it's a guitar riff. Sidewinder has 4 or 5 parts to it, like an opera or like a whatever. It has lots of different parts to it, and each one of those parts has very unique drum parts written for it. And he really worked on those, which you can hear. I mean, not just him, the whole band are extraordinary. That the guitarist Saki and Sinister, they're amazing. Everything on the album is musically very technical, very hard. Everyone tried to play along to backcountry riff at the beginning and all those kind of things. It was really, they're one of those bands that people straight away wanted the tabs. They wanted to know how to play the songs because they were musicians' wet dream. Really, they can really play. And on this album more than ever, they really showed we're not just a band that are kind of metalcore and we're doing all right. They really showed that they had more of a songwriting prowess and just a really, really solid metal album. And Sidewinder for me, it's just an extraordinary piece. The drum tracks for everything. I mean, there's Beast in the Harlot, Backcountry. You can listen to those isolated drum tracks. In fact, you can listen to Brooks, the current Avenged drummer. He does a bit of an analysis of the revs playing. It's on YouTube if you look it up. Isolating some of those drum tracks and just some of the speed he gets on his snare rolls and his toms. I mean, big influence. Mike Portnoy was big influence on him from Dream Theater, Neil Peart, all those kind of classic prog rock metal drummers who became great friends of the Revs, of course, before he sadly passed away. Which was another celebrity death that I was really affected by, actually, because the Rev was probably one of 4 or 5 drummers for me that was massive inspiration. Again, there's no way I'm at his level. I can play some of his stuff. Some of it's just too technical for me. It's just a solid metal album. They wrote
really
songs like Dimebag, Getting Killed, in Betrayed.
What song's that?
Betrayed, I think it's about him.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, really interesting, orchestral arrangements. There's some acoustic in there. There's some ballads in there. A lot of speed metal in there. Voice, take it or leave it. It's like Marmite for me. I didn't have a problem with the voice. I think that's because I came from more of a power metal-y kind of background. But if you're going to listen to it for anything, listen to the drums because they're extraordinary. It had some really good music videos as well, actually. Backcountry, really when his face was going all weird, and they had
really good
visual presence, and then they won the MTV Video Music Awards. So
and funny that we're both our number 2 albums are both from bands that have gone on to receive a kind of almost a snotty opinion of the metal upper classes. They're kind of they laugh off Trivium and they laugh off Avenged as being kind of corny, kind of mainstream metal, but they're just the 2 albums. I mean, they're both incredible.
I think to have those 2 albums out in the same year was a huge metal that I think people maybe a bit ignorant if they say that wasn't a really important time for metal, because the mid 2000s, like we said earlier, was amazing for metal. But Trivium and Avenged back to back. They may well have toured together. I'm not sure.
And everything else, Bullet and everything else. yeah, incredible. MCR had just had 3 Cheers out. There were Fall Out Boy. There was Panic. I mean, mixing of rock and metal and emo. But yeah, I mean, what a time to be into heavy music.
What a time to be alive. I think it was Backcountry that was one of the first singles off that album that I heard, although I'd heard their other stuff before, like Chapter 4 and songs like that I'd already heard. But just my love for them grew from this album onwards and liked them all the way through. So, going to pick Sidewinder, I think, just because I love that drum track so much.
Yeah, it's great.
But yeah, City of Evil, check it out, my number 2.
Yeah. And 2 bands that are, just massively influenced by
the Iron Maiden,
named as major influences by both Metallica as well. But yes, very good. So numero uno, that means number 1.
Oh yeah, do you know he speaks Spanish?
I've been learning another language whilst in isolation. My number 1 is mainly number 1 and not number 2 because of its commercial appeal and its importance to more mainstream music.
Mm-hmm.
So the second album from lyrical production genius Kanye West, Late Registration, is my number 1 album of the year. A little bit of context on this. So Kanye had a pretty big year that year, a pretty controversial year like he does most. But this was a year with Katrina. So there's the video of him stood next to Michael Myers where he says he's doing like a telethon thing. And he just says, George Bush doesn't care about black people. And then it just cuts away and goes to Chris Tucker from Rush Hour. I think it goes to him. Yeah.
Let's hope it does, mate, for your sake.
Yeah, right. So yeah, there was that. So that caused massive waves and things like that. And then Katrina and talking of hurricane. He then does an interview at one point in the year as well with Sway for MTV where he calls out homophobia in hip hop, comes out against himself, actually speaks open about his past discriminations when he was in high school, that homophobia was a kind of the standard. He actually says that being homophobic is integral to hip hop, and that almost the word gay and the word hip hop are almost polar opposites of each other, and that's how the discrimination was so ingrained into the culture. Really interesting interview with Sway. Find it on YouTube. Speaks very openly, and then he talks about how he found out his cousin was gay, and then his mum was gay. She came out as gay before she died. Really interesting insight into Kanye. People bash him for everything, but he really is a troubled yet quite honest and open guy. But yes,
Way, gay, it all rhymed, doesn't it?
It was meant to be.
It's meant to be.
Right? Yeah, to be, and a young
Jesus walks.
A young
and pleases porks.
Yeah, that's not. No, that's the level of your.
I'm just going to give you that. That's what I can do if you need me to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. His second album is basically a more refined version of his first album. It's kind of almost can be seen as his first album just improved upon, doubled up on. You could see it as a part 1 and part 2, but the production on this album is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Took a year to record, cost over $2 million to complete this album. Just some of the awards and things that it won. Won a Grammy for Best Rap Album, nominated for Best Album. Rolling Stone named it Album of the Year.
Really?
2012, they named it the 118th greatest album of all time in the top 500 albums. It sold 860,000 copies in the first week.
Wow.
And sold 3.1 million in the US overall. It's appeared on all sorts of decade best lists and things like that. In general, it's kind of an album that's got it's standard early Kanye, jazzy piano, soul loops, mixed up with computer beats. He's just a production genius, really. Funny and insightful lyrics on things like fame and wealth, but as well, he was speaking very openly about poverty and drug trafficking, racism, the blood diamond trade, which he probably brought people's attention to.
Diamonds are forever.
Such as that. Full of weird, sometimes funny sketches, sometimes they don't work. This is the last album, I think, that has weird skits on it. The first two albums have quite a lot of skits, which takes the track listing, I think, to 21 tracks, but 4 skits in there.
It's almost like too many skits elongates something that should be much shorter, but we wouldn't know anything about that. Touch the sky, the testify. You know what I don't like about him? When he goes, la 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 la. That's stupid.
That's the best bit.
No, it's not. I really think he thought he sung that well as well. La 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 la.
La la la. Yeah, he's not a great singer. Heard him say the opening track, just really bright piano. I'm an absolute sucker for piano hip hop tracks.
Stop that there. Edit that. Stop that there. Edit that. I'm an absolute sucker. K.
Stop that there. Edit that. Yeah, love it. But yeah, I mean, the opening track to the album, I think the third line. Before you ask me to get a job today, can I at least get a raise on minimum wage? And I know that the government administered aid, so I guess I'll just pray like the minister say. Very, very political.
Wow. Oh, he's frozen. And
no, I'm just doing a joke.
You're back in the room. Well, that was a worry. Oh, he's frozen again.
I got you again.
Stop joking. Stop it.
Stop it. As I was saying, it's
political.
Very political album. That doesn't mean that it hasn't got absolute bangers as well. I mean, it goes from that very political stuff on government administered aids to Touch the Sky, which is just one of the biggest sort of bangers ever.
La, 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 la.
Da, 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 da. What I love about Kanye is his music's incredibly soulful.
Well, it's because it's sampling great Motown and soul songs.
You've got it.
Basically.
But also, even the instrumentation, when it's not samples, I mean, it uses loads of horns and things like that. I mean, Touch the Sky, just a real feel-good track. Gold Digger, massive chart success on that as well. It's one of those albums which I think showed that he could develop sonically, but also prove himself to be commercially absolute dynamite. Because there's tracks on here that are real kind of thought-provoking politics things. I mean, tracks like Diamonds from Sierra Leone, which had 2 versions on the album. One not really about diamonds, more as the pressure of Rockefeller with Jay-Z using diamonds as a metaphor, but then one legitimately about blood diamonds. And that's kind of that 2 face of the coin is kind of represents Kanye. He can do the kind of stuff on being rich and saying that he's a god and saying that he's Mozart. He can also do stuff on the poverty and the issues in black neighborhoods and things like that. It's just a real kind of flip of a coin. You can get, depending on what day it is a different Kanye. It's one of those just really great albums. There's one track in particular which is really cool called My Way Home, featuring Common. It's got a great verse from him, and then just breaks into Home Is Where the Hatred Is by Jill Scott Heron, in 1971 track about being addicted to drugs and things like that, and it just cuts into it to like a minute and a half. And it's just great. You think those old soul tracks, and he's sampling Nina Simone a lot in his career, and went on to with things like Blood on the Leaves. And
he likes blood on everything. Blood on diamonds, blood on leaves. Bloody get out of here.
Bloody Build the Wall when he went through that Trump bit, and then
good guy.
But yeah, there's some skits on it that work well and not so well. They vary. Roses, which
Can't relate to that.
Don't relate to that. Loads more soul samples about tracks about family and death, and Hey Mama, which is a really nice track dedicated to Hey Mum, Hey Mama, about a track written before this album, about in 2000, about his mum. Just a lovely track about a dedication to his mum, who died 2 years later.
I wrote a song about his mum.
Did you? Yeah. Do you know she died of plastic surgery complications?
Ooh, how
weird stuff.
Well, she get like an infection or something, or?
Yeah, I don't know actually. Don't know what she was having done or anything, but yeah, that's how she died. 2 years after this.
Horrible.
And affected Kanye West massively.
Yeah.
But track to go on the playlist is going to be Diamonds from Sierra Leone. Obviously, it's got that incredible Diamonds Are Forever.
She's in the room.
Which is, it's lyrics about materialism, the effects of blood diamonds, and then it's got a great last verse from Jay-Z. We're going to put the Jay-Z one on the playlist. Mm-hmm. There are some weaker tracks on it, but like I said, some of the skits, Addiction and Celebration, aren't great. But in terms of commercial success and the importance to hip-hop as a wider genre, which had gone through a very blingy era with 50 Cent and people like that. Some more singles that I'll talk about later. But yeah, a very important hip-hop album, in my opinion. And much like his first, just full of absolute tunes.
Well, I ain't saying she's a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke
people
of
all colours,
and creeds. My number one is, and I was surprised at myself for this, but I've recently listened to this album all the way through for the first time. Probably since it came out. I mean, I listened to it, obviously there's bits and bobs throughout, but a full album listen through.
Right.
Employment, the Kaiser Chiefs. Got myself. An iconic, another debut album, a year of debut albums. Debut studio album. They'd released one under a different name, but I don't know that album, to be honest. They had it began with P, can't remember. March 2005. Through Be Unique Records, so very Brit-poppy, new wavy kind of album. Charted at number 3, climbed to 2 after the Brit Awards, where they won 3 different Brit Awards.
Right.
British Rock Act, Best British Live Act, and Best British Group. So swept the stage. It ended up being the 4th best-selling album in the UK in 2005. So basically, they approached a producer. They were supporting the Ordinary Boys, and they approached a producer called Stephen Street, who's quite a well-known producer, and said, "Here's our demo. We want you to produce us." It's unusual for a band to go straight to one singular producer and say, "We know what you can do. We want to work with you." He said, "Yeah, great. Listen to the demo." They started working together. Album recorded in super rush because they were touring like mad people. They were playing, I think, it was like the Enemy Awards tour. I think they were playing when that used to be a thing. They were playing the opening slot on that.
Yeah. That was a big gig.
Yeah, huge. We know we think about them these days, but like really honing their live sound for years. Hence why they won Best Live Act. So they were super prepared, but studio-wise, hadn't had a lot of time, so they were kind of rushing it. But for a rushed album, a pretty damn good album. 4 out of 5, Rolling Stone. Spin named it 19th best album of 2005. Cut 4 out of 5. Yahoo 8 out of 10 when they used to review stuff. In fact, Yahoo called Kaiser Chiefs the first worthy successor to Blur, which is a huge title, somewhat misplaced now looking back at the Kaiser Chiefs. I mean, that first album, it really did smash through, but I don't think they had the longevity that Blur had. But
it really is a good. I could understand someone saying that then.
Yeah.
In retrospect, obviously, it's they peaked with this, but
basically,
what an album!
Yeah, Mojo 50th best album of 2005. Just on all the lists, So most people know Kaiser Chiefs, kind of the cheeky, kind of bit of a swagger, bit of confidence. They're kind of a mixture of Blur, Supergrass, but then with a kind of a ska kind of madness vibe. Even a bit of the Beach Boys in terms of their harmonies and things like that, and throwback sounds and some of the ballads. A real kind of, they're kind of rooted in English sensibility and a real quintessential Britishness, but and very traditional as well. But they're sort of like indie electronica kind of art. They're a strange mixture, but they're not afraid to show their influences. They'll wear them on their sleeves. They're very honest about loving Blur, loving Madness, all those kind of bands. In terms of songwriting, they like credit everyone, which is nice. I like to see that everybody's credited for something. Just a great album. Like there's synth elements in there, there's tight harmonies, there's ska, there's that kind of cockney, cheeky, chappy, I'm all right, governor. There's that kind of attitude, but it's harmless. You know what I mean? Very quirky, some great lyrics. They use a lot of old kind of traditional English words like Larry and I tell thee. Shifting apart like a plate tectonic, I think is a great lyric.
That's cool.
Like using a lot of rhythm and meter and grammar and colloquialisms and like a load of great imagery. Talking of what you were talking about, Dracula and vampires. Lyric, sucked more blood than a backstreet dentist. I think that's just a lovely lyric. It's just such a lovely lyric, huge choruses, like every song. There's like their choruses are perfectly written for festival crowds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
it's funny that
it's just perfect.
When I was looking at the research for this episode, when I was doing the Glastonbury research, and their set came up, and then they're playing it like, they're like a cultured band that have been doing it for 10 years. They look like they're on their 5th album. Everyone's going mental. His name, was it Ricky
Wilson? Yeah.
Such a good front man. He's going crazy. The crowd are going mental.
Yeah.
That I can see why they won Best Live Band. They looked incredible live.
That's it. They honed it for many years before, and they paid dividends in the end, paid off for them. But just like choruses written for festivals. Oh my God. Predict a Riot, Modern Way. It's all chantable. It's all singable. Perfect hooks. But they also tread the ground. They're perfectly syncable for film and TV. They're perfect songs that can be on adverts, in shows. Kind of an anarchy to the punk-like chanting and things like no, and I Predict a Riot and things. But it's kind of like safe anarchy. You know what I mean? No one's going to get hurt, but you can have a bounce.
Like a bit of safe.
Yeah, you can have a good time, but
middle class anarchy.
Don't poke anyone with paper clips because that's not on.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really like. I mean, obviously, Every Day I Love You Less and Less, Predictor Riot, Modern Way,
Yeah.
are all great songs. Oh my God, it's great. I really like Na 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 though.
Yeah.
I love that.
Na, na,
Song.
na, na, na. It's great.
Na, 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 na.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just looking at the track list, I mean, it's everything on there. Born to Be a Dancer. I mean, Saturday Night. It's What Did I Ever Give You? Every song has, again, a personality. Has something different to it. Has hooks in there. It has kind of relatable British kind of imagery and quirkiness. Very kitsch.
Very British album.
But then super polished again, production-wise. Super polished harmonies. Really thought through in terms of arrangements. I mean, Nick was a great drummer. Fortunately, he left a few years back. But use of open hi-hat and things like that, again, big inspiration to me, the same as a Rev was. Really interesting use of hi-hat and things I hadn't really heard coming into a new bar and keeping the hi-hat open and stuff. Sounds kind of a bit random, but it was those hooks again, those kind of rhythmical hooks that not every drummer does.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of big part in the songwriting as well.
Yeah, he was, from what I understand, a really important, integral part of the band.
You can see the difference after he left.
Decision making, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Great album back to back. I mean, favourites for me would be it's hard to Modern Way. I think the chorus is an extraordinary chorus. Every Day it's great, because the amazing synth introduction, very throwback, very 80s. You could easily hear that on a Gary Newman record. It sounds a bit like early Depeche Mode as well. I Predictor Riot did used to cover that a year or so later when I finally got in some semblance of a band. Oh my God, all these songs have been covered. Lily Allen covered things, and lots of people covered them over the years. But the song that I'm actually going to choose for the playlist would be
Na 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 na.
it wouldn't be that, although that was pitch perfect.
Na 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 na. Okay, what is it?
It would be You Can Have It All.
Nice.
A really meandering, sort of beautifully, kind of floats along a song like that. And I think for that album to experiment the way that it does and not be afraid to do ballads, but do them earnestly, but to still have that kind of tongue-in-cheek quirkiness to them. I think it's just a really, really pretty song, and uses things like a wood block and different, acoustic sounds and just put together really nicely. And it has a really interesting outro where it's just the instrumental for a while, and it's sort of strips back some of the instruments. And
Nice.
I think it's a bit of a lesser known song, but I think it's really hard to choose my favourite song from that album, because every
Na 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 na.
that's the one. It just they smash. They're funny. They're quirky. They're touching.
It's a funny album. Yeah,
it's funny. It's great. Talking about condoms. If it wasn't for chip fat, they'd be frozen, and all kinds of amazing imagery, and just like they're just really, really an underrated band. I think a lot of people look back and maybe say one hit wonder. Following year, Ruby was following couple of years. Sorry, Ruby. A huge single.
yeah.
So they didn't quite die out, but then they never really got bigger than that.
Ruby, what's their biggest? I mean, their biggest song is probably "I Predict a Riot."
Yeah,
but Ruby might be second.
Ruby made a lot of money and got a lot of airplay. Ruby.
Yeah, good. And then Ricky went on for his best achievement, being on The Voice.
Good man, yeah. Comes across as a bit of a knob. I actually saw him throwback in War of the Worlds in Bournemouth.
Nice.
He played Phil's.
Yeah, he did that.
No, he played the artillery man.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Good. I hammed it up a bit, overacted, but
yeah.
No, love him. Good voice, underrated voice as well. We've got a real interesting voice, but yeah,
Great voice.
Great album. I'm sure most people have heard it, but it's got everything you need in there. Hooks, synth, funny, very English. Good live. Saw them live. Unfortunately, it was after Nick left, but really good live. Still play a lot of the hits, and they sound great live. So,
yeah.
But I think I've
not seen them live. Yeah,
Very
yeah.
good, very good, matey. Very good album. So
Bands one of the bands I wish I had seen, I think, at that time, or maybe a few years later. But yeah, never got around to seeing them. I don't know why. And I probably, unless they were at a festival, probably wouldn't bother now. But
yeah, in their prime, I
yeah.
think it would have been amazing to be part of that. But employment, Kaiser Chiefs.
Hello, mates. Kenny here. We've gone a very, very long time. Thank you so much if you've listened up to this point. We have done our favourite 3 albums and recapped a bit of context from 2005. We are going to split this episode in 2 now, so you can tune in next week for part 2, where we will go through our favourite singles from 2005. There are some absolute bloody crackers, so be sure to come back for that. But we will end this episode here. You can catch our social medias, Twitter, Rock Roulette Pod, Rock and Roulette Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. You can listen to this episode on SoundCloud, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and the Big Heads Media website. And for anything else, we'll see you next week. Peace out.